Okay. Okay, we're going to get started. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll get this meeting started. We're still expecting Councillor Jonker. Regrets from Councillor Rayner. He's not well tonight. So good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Township of West Lincoln Planning, Building and Environmental Committee meeting. This is meeting number 7, held Monday, September 9th, 2019. Note to members of the public that all cell phones, pagers, and/or PDAs should be turned off. And additionally, for your information, we are audio and video recording this meeting. So my name is Cheryl Ganan, and I'll be chairing this meeting this evening. Members of council, are there any changes in order of items on the further agenda? Okay. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and/or conflict of interest? Okay, seeing none, then we're going to move into our public meetings. We do have 4 public meetings this evening, 2 under the Planning Act and 2 under the street naming.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, sorry.
Oh, 1 second, we may have something.
I know there's one under a verbal update through, on item P9719, so I think I should declare conflict for that one.
Okay, now it is a verbal update and no real action, probably, but just in case. Thank you.
Please do note.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you then. Okay, nothing further from anyone else. Then we're going to move into the first public meeting this evening. This is a public meeting to consider revisions to a draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment application submitted by John and Eva Vukovic, Jim Vukovic agent. The Planning Act requires in Section 34, subsection 12, that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment, Council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The purpose of this public meeting is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the zoning bylaw amendment for John and Eva Vukovic. We stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and any comments received will be taken into account by Council in their consideration. The Planning Act requires in Section 34, subsection 14.1, that Council advise the public that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of West Lincoln before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of Council for the Township of West Lincoln to the Ontario Municipal Board. So would the Deputy Clerk please advise of the method and dates by which notice of the public meeting was given?
Proper notice was given to the residents within 120 meters of the subject property by way of individual notice mailed August 6th, 2019. Additionally, a yellow sign was posted on the subject property and on the township's website.
Okay, thank you. So we have our Planner 1, Alexa Cooper. Would you please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for John and Eva Vukovic? Alexa.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Elsa, if you wouldn't mind switching to the laptop. Thanks. An application for rezoning was made by John and Eva Vukovic for 853820 Road. This application for rezoning is required as a condition of consent for surplus severance application B04 2019 WL that was conditionally approved by the by the Township's Committee of Adjustment on April 24, 2019. The severed residential lot is proposed to be rezoned to a rural residential with no site-specific exception. The retained agricultural lot is required to be rezoned from Agricultural A to Agricultural Purposes Only, or APO, with a site-specific exception to recognize a deficient lot frontage of 83 meters. The APO zone will prevent residential uses on the property in perpetuity. The Township's Public Works Department, Building Department, and Septic Inspector have no objections regarding the rezoning application as proposed. The Niagara Region also has no objections, provided that the farmlands are rezoned to preclude any new dwellings in perpetuity, which is exactly what the APO zone will do. The MPCA provided no objection to the application as proposed, and no public comments have been received to date in response to this application. A future staff report will provide a recommendation to the Planning, Building, Environmental Committee for this application following input received through tonight's public meeting process. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So is the applicant or an authorized agent representing them? Okay, would you like to come forward, please? Now, yeah, we no longer have the podium. Perhaps you were here the last time and it was there, so you can go from there. But I still need you to offer your name, please, and where you live and so on. Come in.
Yeah, Jim Vukovic.
Okay, so Jim, just 1 second, please, and we'll just let Councillor Jonker get in, and then at least he will. Okay, thank you. He's good. As long as he can listen and know what's going on, then that's great. Thank you. Okay, thanks for your pause.
Okay, yeah, so Jim Vukovic, I really have nothing to say right now. I'm just here to answer any questions.
Okay, so you feel that Ms. Cooper has represented your situation well for you then? Okay, so that's good. So I'm going to then move on, and you can just stay where you are if you like for now, and then we'll just see if anything else comes up. So are there any oral or written submissions on the proposed draft plan of subdivision and/or zoning bylaw amendment from anyone present? I would like to stress that this may be the only public meeting held with respect to this application. Therefore, if any members of the public have comments, they should state them now, as LPAP may not consider comments made during any other council and/or committee meeting. Also, anyone wishing to speak is required to come forward to the front table and speak into the microphone, providing their name and address for the record prior to speaking. So is there a member of the public here wishing to speak to this application? Okay, moving on then, I'm going to ask if there are any members of committee that have any oral or written submissions on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Please note that members of council must also make their comments now, as LPAT will not consider comments made during another council and/or committee meeting. So are there any members of council with a question or a comment that they wish to make now? Okay, once again, seeing none. Please be advised that a technical report is being considered by committee this evening, and that a recommendation report will be forthcoming to a future planning committee and/or council meeting. Please be advised that once the planning committee and/or council has made a decision with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment, and if approved by council, a notice of its passing will be circulated with an appeal period. There's an attendance sign-in sheet which is located on the table near the exit doors, which we would ask all present to sign. Please ensure that when signing the attendance sheet for this evening's committee meeting, that you place a check mark in the column marked Vukovic if you wish to be advised of any subsequent meetings and/or decisions on this matter. Therefore, people who are interested in observing council and/or committee discussions about a particular bylaw should not solely rely on mailed notices and thus miss the opportunity to attend meetings. It is suggested that you watch the township's website for postings of agendas to review items that will be discussed at a council and/or committee meeting. The agendas for meetings are posted on the township website at 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, meeting schedules are also noted on the website for the public to view. If you wish to receive notices by email, it is suggested that you include your email address with your mailing address and your phone number on the attendance sign-up sheet. So seeing nothing further, this public meeting with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is concluded at the hour of 6:37. So, Mr. Vukovic, thank you. Okay, so we're moving on now to the second public meeting this evening. This is a public meeting to consider a zoning bylaw amendment application for a garden suite as a temporary use submitted by Paul and Linnea Campia. The Planning Act requires in Section 34, subsection 12, that before passing a zoning bylaw amendment, council must hold at least one public meeting for the purpose of informing the public in respect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. The purpose of this public meeting is to receive comments and answer questions from the public regarding the zoning bylaw amendment submitted by Paul and Linnea Campia. We stress that at this point, no decision has been made on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, and any comments received will be taken into account by council in their consideration. The Planning Act requires in Section 34, subsection 14.1, that council advise the public that if a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of West Lincoln before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council to the Township of West Lincoln to the Ontario Municipal Board. So once again, would the Deputy Clerk please advise of the method and dates by which notice of the public meeting was given?
Proper notice was given to the residents within 120 meters of the subject property by way of individual notice mailed August 12th, 2019. Additionally, a yellow sign was posted on the subject property and notice was listed on the township's website.
Thank you. So once again, Planner 1, Alexa Cooper, would you please explain the purpose and reason for the proposed revisions to the draft plan of subdivision and zoning bylaw amendment for Paul and Linnea Campia? Thank you.
Thanks, Madam Chair. The Campias have applied for an extension to the existing temporary use bylaw present on their subject property, which is 9653 Concession 3 Road. The Campias originally applied for the temporary use bylaw in 2006 to accommodate Mr. Campia's aging parents. In 2016, the Campias applied for an extension to the approved temporary use bylaw. As extensions are only permitted to be granted for a maximum of 3 years, they have come in to request another 3-year extension to continue to accommodate his parents. The proposed extension for the garden suite is permitted on the property and no changes are proposed to what they have had since 2006. A garden suite is not intended to be a rental unit and is to be removed once it is no longer required by the family. And just kind of as an FYI, the township has a $5,000 security deposit that's been held since 2006 just to ensure the removal of the garden suite once it's no longer in use. All relevant agencies had no objection to the application as proposed and no public comments have been received thus far. And again, a future staff report will provide a recommendation to committee for this application following input received from tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper. So is the applicant or an agent representing the applicant here wishing to speak? Do either of you wish to speak? No, you're fine. You're satisfied with what Ms. Cooper had to say? Okay, thank you then. So are there any oral or written submissions on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment from anyone else present? I would like to stress that this may be the only public meeting held with respect to this application. Therefore, if any members of the public have comments, they should state them now, as LPAT may not consider comments made during any other council or committee meeting. Also, anyone wishing to speak is required to come forward to the front table and speak into the microphone, providing their name and address for the record prior to speaking. So are there any members of the public here wishing to speak to this application? Okay, seeing none, do any members of the committee have any oral or written submissions on the proposed revisions to the zoning bylaw amendment? Please note that members of council must make their comments now, as LPAT will not consider comments made during another council and/or committee meeting. So are there any questions or comments from members of committee? Okay, again, seeing none. Please be advised that a technical report is being considered by the committee this evening and that a recommendation report will be forthcoming to a future planning committee and/or council meeting. Please be advised that once the planning committee and/or council has made a decision with respect to the zoning bylaw amendment, and if approved by council, a notice of its passing will be circulated with an appeal period. There's an attendance sign-in sheet which is located on the table near the exit doors, which we would ask all present to sign. Please ensure that when signing the attendance sheet for this evening's committee meeting, that you place a check mark in the column marked Campia if you wish to be advised of any subsequent meetings and/or decisions on this matter. Therefore, people who are interested in observing council and/or committee discussions about a particular bylaw should not solely rely on mailed notices and thus miss the opportunity to attend meetings. It is suggested that you watch the township's website for postings of the agenda to review items that will be discussed at a council or committee meeting. The agendas for meetings are posted on the township website at 4 p.m. on the Friday prior to the meeting. Additionally, meeting schedules are also noted on the website for the public to view. If you wish to receive notices by email, it is suggested that you include your email address with your mailing address and your phone number on the attendance sign-up sheet. So this public meeting with respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is concluded at the hour of 6:43. Okay, moving on to public meeting number 3. This public meeting is being held in accordance with the Municipal Act SO 2001, Chapter 25, and the Township of West Lincoln's procedural bylaw and street naming policy, being policy POL-PD-01-11. The Township of West Lincoln's procedural bylaw states that any matter pertaining to the naming of a highway and/or private road in a plan of subdivision or plan of condominium for which notice is required to be given, notice shall be published at least once, the date of the publication being at least 7 days prior to the council meeting indicated in the notice. Public notice of this meeting was given through advertising in the Township Administration Building, on the Township's website, and in a newspaper with general circulation dated August 15th, 2019. The purpose of this evening's meeting is to inform the public of council's intent and to receive comments regarding the naming of the street in Spring Creek Manor. A bylaw will be passed at a later date to officially name the street in Spring Creek Manor. So this evening we have Planner 2, Mr. Garrett Borma, who's going to explain the planning staff report number PD-139-19 regarding the naming of the street for Spring Creek Manor. Mr. Borma, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. An application for street naming has been made by RVL Homes and Upper Canada Consultants to name one internal street for their 11-unit condominium at the corner of Station Street and Spring Creek Road, known as Spring Creek Manor. The condominium was given draft approval earlier this year following an appeal to LPAT. Condition of this draft approval is to name the internal street. RVL has requested that the street be named Springstead Lane. Springstead is on the approved list of street names. Alternatively, if Springstead is not favored, they have requested Jones Lane, which is also on the list. The region and the fire department were consulted on this application, and the township fire department did raise a potential concern that the name is similar to Spring Creek Lane, or Spring Creek Road, on which the development is located. No other public or agency comments have been received at this time.
Okay, thank you. Pardon me. Is the applicant or their authorized agent present to provide comments regarding naming of the street in Spring Creek Manor? So is there somebody wishing to speak to this? No? If it's all good. Okay. Are there any oral or written submissions from members of the public who wish to speak on this? Please remember that you need to come forward to the microphone and give your name and address if you wish to speak. Seeing none, are there any oral written submissions from any members of council regarding the naming of the street in Spring Creek Manor? So questions or comments? Councillor Jonker.
Yeah, just that's the one thing that struck me too with their first choice was that with the fire department, the issue they had with the name. And I think that's makes sense to have that concern, right? You don't want to get roads mixed up when you're going somewhere. So I think that's something we should consider.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Belsman?
I have a similar concern. I think we're going through a process of where we're trying to clean up some of our names. We have, of course, 2 Silver Streets and 2 Canberras, and generally they haven't been a problem, but if we can avoid this one right from the get-go, I would, if they have proposed a second name, I think that would be more appropriate to go for it. And just by looking at this, I don't know if they have, a lot of times there's a kind of a personal or sentimental value to some of the names. I don't think they have a son named Stead or something like that that they're trying to memorialize in this. So to go with the second recommendation, I think might be more prudent at this time.
Okay, any further comments? I have one, and simply because for years, of course, I had a fire department personnel in my household. My first thinking was if they were heading to Spring Creek, that would make it an easy assumption then that Springstead, would be connected. So a totally different way of looking at it, and I think certainly there'll be some thought given to it by staff. But so it's not all bad just because they're similar. Because all you're going to do is turn that corner on Spring Creek, and it's going to be there. So not such a big issue, but perhaps something that can be looked at. So any further comments? Okay, so please be advised that a technical report is being considered by the Planning Committee this evening, and that a recommendation report will be forthcoming to a future Planning Committee and/or Council meeting. Everyone is invited to stay in attendance to hear the committee's comments and a recommendation with respect to the naming of the street in Spring Creek Manor, which will take place shortly following conclusion of this public meeting. Additionally, there's an attendance sign-in sheet which is located on the table near the exit doors, which we would ask all present to sign. Please ensure that when signing the attendance sheet, you place a check mark in the last column if you wish to be advised of any subsequent meetings and/or decisions on this matter. So this public meeting with respect to the naming of the street in Spring Creek Manor is concluded at the hour of 6:40, we'll say 9, pretty close to 9. And finally, the fourth public meeting this evening is again a naming of Town Line Road. This public meeting is being held in accordance with the Municipal Act SO 2001 Chapter 25 and the Township of West Lincoln's procedural bylaw and street naming policy being policy POL-PD-01-11. The Township of West Lincoln's procedural bylaw states that any matter pertaining to the naming of a highway and/or private road in a plan of subdivision or plan of condominium for which notice is required to be given, notice shall be published at least once, the date of the publication being at least 7 days prior to the council meeting indicated in the notice. Public notice of this meeting was given through advertising in the Township Administration Building, on the Township's website, and in a newspaper with general circulation dated July 29, 2019. The purpose of this evening's public meeting is to inform the public of Council's intent and to receive comments regarding officially naming Town Line Road, which has also been known as Regional Road 614, prior to this road being downloaded by the Niagara region to the Township. A bylaw will be passed at a later date to officially name the street on Town Line Road. So, Director of Planning and Building, Mr. Brian Treble, would you please explain the staff report, number PD-135-19, regarding the naming of the street for Town Line Road? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As was just identified by the Mayor, we are in the process of working on some corrections to street naming. This falls into that category where, in accordance with the 911 protocol known as 911 PERS, we're attempting to unify street names across the township. We're just looking at the township level. There are multiple duplicates and names within the township, let alone across the region. One of the ones on our list was the street just at the end here. If you were to go down Canberra Road and turn left, that stretch of road up until 1995 was known as Regional Road 614. Then downloading occurred where the region passed some of the roads on to the township. And from that point on, it appears that the township has used Town Line Road as the terminology. There is no bylaw in place that actually assigned a proper name, however. So in our research, we've found that there are 58 properties along that stretch of road out to Highway 20, Regional Road 20, and 12 of them are using the term Regional Road 614. So staff's assumption is that those are reflective of building permits probably issued for houses prior to 1995. One of them actually uses Regional Road 14, which I don't believe that piece of street ever was. And then 45 houses are actually using the terminology Town Line Road. So the region is providing a couple of pieces of guidance to us. Number one, they don't want us to use street numbers. So using 614 or any combination of number, they don't want us to use in a street. They want an actual name, which would suggest that Town Line Road might be the best solution to address this matter, because you're only impacting at that point, 13 houses. However, the region did note that Town Line Road is a pretty common road name within the region. So it's not their preference, but it is acceptable to use Town Line Road. So, but to use any other street name or combination of street name means that we're changing all 58 properties along that street. So to minimize impact, it might be worth considering just converting the 13 houses to Town Line Road, then everyone's on the same page. So this is following a process in our procedural bylaw of the township, which requires that before we pass a bylaw to name a street, we have to hold a public consultation session. So this is meant to be the public consultation. We'll receive input from anyone that might have an interest, and then staff will come back with a recommendation report at a future meeting to recommend a bylaw for passage.
Thank you, Mr. Trowell. Okay, so are there any oral or written submissions from any members of the public regarding officially naming Town Line Road? So is there anyone tonight who wishes to speak on this topic? Please remember that this is your opportunity to come forward, and there will not be another. Again, are there any oral or written submissions by any members of council regarding naming of Town Line Road? So again, Mayor Bilsma.
So my question actually deals with the parcel immediately adjacent. So from Canberra Road going west, is there any ambiguity with the next section of the road? Has it ever been called Town Line Road, or is it strictly Regional Road 14? And the naming of the addresses are there. I guess, short of opening up another can of worms, at the intersection of the end of Canberra Road, the T intersection, there'll be a sign saying Town Line this way, Regional Road 14 west. Is that my understanding?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe the sign at the end of the road actually says, I could stand to be corrected on this, but I believe it says Town Line Road left and Smithville Road to the right, I believe, but it is Regional Road 14
So that's
for
another one that's
sure.
coming up in the first.
It is another one that's coming up.
There may be many more.
I think that's the nail on the head right there. From some of the research we've been doing, there are some houses along that stretch, kind of across from the schools along there, that use Town Line Road. But most of the sign blades along that stretch, all the way out to the Mouse Corner, seem to use Smithville Road. The sign blades do. So it's another one to come. We're kind of chunking them apart in pieces that are manageable, and so our suggestion is to stick for Canberra Road east towards Highway 20 or Regional Road 20, forgive me, tonight. We'll be back with the rest of it.
The only reason I asked that question is if there's some ambiguity between Canberra and, well, we've referred to it as the Mouse Corner, but because Smithville Road is often referred to as a section that comes from the village of Canberra all the way to more or less the Fork intersection. What about a half a mile south of Mouse Corner? So, you know, Smithville, so we have a lot of colloquial names, common use names, and if we're going to open up this can of worms, it would make sense to at least, when a road is straight without any break in it, more or less, and I refer to the section that we're commonly talking about, Town Line Road today, to the Mouse Corner, that is a straight section of road. It would make sense to have one name for it. I just want to know, I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
If people are using it upstream, I would like to go with Town Line Road. If people are referring to it as Smithville Road, I think that's problematic. I feel very comfortable with Town Line Road, and then impose that on the people from, in a manner of speaking, also from Canberra to Mouse Corner.
Through you, Madam Chair, we've had a number of discussions internal about that. I will have that discussion with the fire chief at some point as well. But if you think of Regional Road 14, I believe it starts at Mudd in the north end, and it's 30 Road up there. Then it becomes Station Street when it gets into town, and then it becomes Griffin, I guess, through downtown to the bridge, and then it becomes Canberra to the corner, and then whatever when you turn down there.
To Mouse Corner.
Right, exactly. So I follow your logic that straight stretches would be nice if they had the same name instead of changing halfway through and not knowing where that change occurs. So on that one, we can certainly have that discussion. But for the time being, we'll just deal with the piece, the short piece. We'll be back with the other piece, and I'll keep that thought in mind.
And then just one final question, just while we're on the subject of naming, and this kind of goes in general to the principles. Whatever the region calls a particular road is kind of, at this point, indifferent to what we call it. Is that not right? Like if Regional Road 14, for example, has multiple names, that's just a regional designation. That's how they used to describe it. But in our terminology for planning purposes and permits and stuff, we would use the names that we give it, more or less, unless there's...
As I understand it, through you, Madam Chair, on a going forward basis, once the municipality passes a bylaw at the local level, the region will start using that name terminology as well.
Okay.
It might say Smithville Road in brackets Regional Road 14, like they might not lose the Regional Road piece, but I think they'll start using the bylaw, the actual bylaw name, if I can call it that. As of right now, there's a lot of roads in this township that do not have bylaws, curiously, but it's history, right? That's the way it's always been.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the joining of the three townships has made it very difficult
Little
over time,
complicated,
for
too.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, any further comments or questions from member of council? Okay. So please be advised that a technical report is being considered by the Planning Committee this evening, and that a recommendation report will be forthcoming to a future Planning Committee and/or council meeting. Everyone is invited to stay in attendance to hear the committee's comments and/or recommendations with respect to officially naming Town Line Road, which will take place shortly following conclusion of this public meeting. Additionally, there's an attendance sign-in sheet which is located on the table near the exit doors, which we will ask all present to sign. Please ensure that when signing the attendance sheet, you place a check mark in the last column if you wish to be advised of any subsequent meetings and/or decisions on this matter. This public meeting with respect to officially naming Town Line Road, which is concluded at the hour of 6:59, almost 7. Okay. So moving on then, after those four public meetings to the rest of our agenda, there are no appointments that I'm aware of tonight. There is an opportunity, however, on our agenda always for members of the public to discuss or ask questions or present information that they wish on items that are on the agenda. So I'm going to ask if there are any members of the public who wish to speak tonight to any things on the agenda. Okay, no one there. Okay, number 6 then. Our consent agenda items. All items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial and can be approved by one resolution. So I'll point out that there will be no separate discussion on these items unless a council member requests it by pulling that item. And so the consent agenda items under item P86-19. Number 1, technical report number PD-143-19, John and Eva Vukovic, Jim Vukovic agent, zoning bylaw amendment file number 1601-013-19. 2 is the technical report number PD-145-19, zoning bylaw amendment, temporary use bylaw, the Campea Garden Suite application for extension. Number 3 is a technical report, number PD-139-19, proposed street naming for Spring Creek Manor, 375 Station Street, draft plan of condo, RVL Contracting Limited, owner, file number 2000-081-16. And number 4, the technical report number PD-135-19, the street naming for Regional Road 614, also known as Town Line Road, Smithville. So the recommendation is that the Planning, Building, Environmental Committee hereby approve the following consent agenda items. So items 1, 2, 3, and 4 will be received for information with the exception of items. Is there anything to be pulled? Okay, seeing none, I need a mover, please. Mayor Bilsma. And a seconder, Councillor Riley. All those in favor? Any opposed? Seeing none, that motion is carried. Thank you. Okay. Item number 7 under communications is item P87-19, Vanessa Walsh. It's a request for exemption from noise bylaw provisions for a family birthday event on September 28, 2019 from 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. midnight. It's an exemption to Section 5 of the Township's Noise Bylaw 2013-50. The recommendation is, 1, that the correspondence from Vanessa Walsh received August 6, 2019, requesting an exemption from the provisions of the Township Noise Bylaw 2013-50 in order to hold a family birthday event at 2871 South Grimsby Road 7, Smithville, on September 28, 2019, with the exemption being specifically from 11 p.m. to 12 a.m. midnight on September 28, 2019, be received and supported, and that Ms. Walsh be required to advise all surrounding property owners within 200 meters of 2871 South Grimsby Road 7 of the family birthday event being held on this property. And number 3, that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to the Niagara Regional Police. And number 4, that this recommendation be approved prior to ratification of council. So I need a mover for that, please. Councillor Riley, and a seconder. Councillor Cody. Are there any questions on this? And comments? No? All right, then, seeing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? That motion also carries. Okay, number 8 is staff reports. Item A is item P88-19, Planner 1 Alexa Cooper and Director of Planning and Building Mr. Brian Treble. Re-report number PD-146-19. A recommendation report, Lewis and Gwen Zeldenroos, Jeffrey and Annette Tenage agents. Zoning bylaw amendment file number 1601-012-19. The recommendation is that report PD-146-19 regarding Lewis and Gwen Zeldenroos, Jeffrey and Annette Tenage agents, zoning bylaw amendment, file number 1601-012-19, dated September 9th, 2019, be received. And number 2, that Section 34, subsection 17 of the Planning Act apply, and that no further public meeting is required. And 3, that application for zoning bylaw amendment 1601-012-19 submitted by Lewis and Gwen Zeldenroos, Jeff and Annette Tenage agent, and the corresponding bylaw be approved and passed. And 4, that staff be authorized to circulate the notice of decision for zoning bylaw amendment with the corresponding 20-day appeal period. So I need someone to move that, please. Councillor Riley. And Mayor Billsma, second. Are there any questions or discussion on this? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? And any opposed? And that motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Item B, which is item P89-19, Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, re-report number PD-081-19. It's a recommendation report to commence public process to include green energy policies in the Township of West Lincoln official plan. So the recommendation reads, number 1, that report PD-081-19 regarding the recommendation report commence public process to include green energy policies in the Township of West Lincoln official plan dated September 9th, 2019 be received. And 2, that staff be and are hereby authorized to hold a public meeting at a future planning, building, environmental committee meeting when a draft green energy policy is available to be considered through a public meeting. So I need someone to move that, please. Mayor Billsma. And second, Councillor Trombetta. Okay, are there any questions or comments? Mayor Billsma.
Just, I think it would be appropriate to specifically highlight this to Wellwag and Monty and the some of the organizations that have, really fought, I guess, or expressed a strong opinions about the Green Energy Act, and I'd like to make sure that they come to the table for those public meetings and be informed. I think that they will be, but I just want to make sure we kind of send an official notice from here if we could do that.
Okay, so Mr. Treble.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry, I was going to say Madam Mayor. I have been communicating most recently with Wind Concerns Ontario, and subject to how tonight went, I was going to reach out to Will Wag and others shortly after. Yeah. Wind Concerns Ontario has reached out, I think, through the mayor, suggesting that we should give consideration to an interim control bylaw, because effectively the province's rules saying that there are no provincial rules anymore, it's all local rules, came into effect on July the 1st. And I think Wind Concerns Ontario is getting somewhat concerned that municipalities are not ready to act and should be doing something to ensure that they have regulations in place before any other wind turbine ventures come along. I had been working on a report for a while, and it just wasn't necessarily getting to the forefront. So that message was actually sort of impetus for me to at least get this process started. And it's Wind Concerns Ontario that's making the suggestion of interim control. My message back to Wind Concerns Ontario was, and we experienced this with the school board properties not long ago, you have to be doing a study before you can pass interim control. So my comment was, let's start the public meeting process, and should it become clear that we've run into some sort of a roadblock or challenge, we can quickly turn that into a research study and pass interim control at that point. But to pass interim control bylaw now without actually having any research on the books would be improper. Our lawyers have been very clear on that with respect to the other matters. So hence the reason why this report's on here. It does not have a number in it because, quite frankly, even though the draft policy the township was putting in place back in 2008 or whatever year that was, had very small numbers, the general concepts and terminology wasn't that bad. So the thing we have to figure out is what is the right setback number. Wind Concerns Ontario is continuously throwing some numbers out there, but I think they're even starting to understand that we're limited in some respects because we keep hearing from legal counsel, you can regulate, but you can't prohibit. The suggestion from Mr. Warren Howard, who is a contact at Wind Concerns, basically was that a study in Poland has concluded that it should be 10 times, the setback should be 10 times the height of the turbine. Well, our turbines are such that that's a 2,000 meter setback, which is the bylaw that Wainfleet tried to pass and got severely quashed in the court system. So I'm not sure that's the right number, but as part of our discussion, we're going to have to try and figure out a number. Presumably, it's going to be larger than the 550 the province put in place, and maybe it's a graduated scale somehow, so the bigger the turbine, the bigger the setback. But to me, that's probably the biggest focus of discussion. So I wanted to get the process going. I'll reach out to Wilwag tomorrow, assuming this goes through, and then we can start having some dialogue around setbacks and whatnot and hold a public meeting.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Trimble. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee? No? Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder, so all those in favor? Good, none opposed? Don't see anyone? Great, that motion is carried. So reach out for sure. We're ready to roll. Good. Okay, item C, P90-19, Planner 2, Garrett Borma, and Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble. Report number 126-19, recommendation report. It's an amendment to the fire route bylaw, Big Country Raw, Block 47, which is Rosemont Homes, Niagara Christian Gleaners, Niagara Pallet, and Woodstead Holdings. The recommendation is, number 1, that report PD-126-19 regarding amendment to fire route bylaw, Big Country Raw, Block 47, Niagara Christian Gleaners, Niagara Pallet, and Woodstead Holdings, dated September 9th, 2019, be received. And 2, that a bylaw to amend the fire route bylaw, 97-2030, and in brackets 2017-20, as amended, be approved by the Township Council. So I need a mover for that, please. Councillor Jonker and a seconder, Councillor Trombetta. Any questions or comments, members of committee? No? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? No? Great. Carried. Okay, thank you. Item D is item P91-19, Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble. Report number PD-142-19. Again, a recommendation report, a change to planning fees to take effect October 1st, 2019. The recommendation is 1, that report PD-142-19, dated September 9th, 2019, relating to change to planning fees effective October 1st, 2019, be received. And 2, that bylaw 2002-112, Committee of Adjustment Tariff of Fees, be amended by replacing Schedule D Tariff of Fees with a new Schedule D as attached to this report. And 3, that bylaw 2011-28 Tariff of Fees for Planning Matters be amended by replacing Appendix A Schedule of Fees with a new Appendix A as attached to this report. And 4, that the new planning fees take effect on October 1st, 2019. So once more, I need a mover, please, gentlemen. Councillor Riley, and a seconder, Councillor Cody. All right. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that motion also carries. Okay, so the next item is item P92-19, Planner 1, Alexa Cooper, and Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble. Report number PD-147-19. It's an information report, 0-reg 019-0183, proposed new regulation pertaining to the Community Benefits Authority under the Planning Act. And the recommendation is report PD-147-19 regarding 0-reg 019-0183 proposed new regulation pertaining to the Community Benefits Authority under the Planning Act, dated September 9th, 2019, be received for information purposes. A mover, please. Councillor Bills, Councillor, sorry. Mayor Bilsma? And Councillor Jonker? All right. Are there questions or comments on this item? Mayor Bilsma?
I just wanted to highlight for the council and for the community at large that this is the O is for Ontario. It's not a zero.
Did I say zero? I'm
You said
sorry.
zero reg.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's O reg. I'm just being funny there. But this is all unfolding a new line of support or a new line of funding initiatives from the Ontario government. And I received some notification, I think the Madam CAO also did, saying that it's going to be competitive, but nevertheless, it's something that I'd like to highlight as an opportunity for our municipality to tap in. Is that the same thing? No? Okay, then I got confused.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, I think.
Would you please clarify? Because my understanding is this is more connected to development charges and the changes there. So, okay.
In fairness, we are receiving regular updates of information, and they are really hard to keep track of. But I believe the one you're referring to is the, and I can't remember the official name, but it's a recreation, and
Culture,
the next,
culture in
the
there,
next round of infrastructure projects. And I think it opened up on September the 3rd. And yeah, so sorry.
No, my apologies.
Okay.
So I stand corrected.
Okay.
So now I feel better about the O.
Oh.
You too. Okay, so Mr. Treble, maybe you would like to clarify this, would you, a little bit?
Just a little bit, Madam Chair. As the CAO has mentioned, this is actually an amendment that's happening through Bill 108, which is a change to the Planning Act. And the mayor was heading down the right path there for a little bit, in the sense that this is an effort to take density bonusing and cash in lieu of parkland and some other soft services which are yet to be defined, and add those together as an extra charge that developers pay to a community to help offset costs of growth. Bottom line is that the province has made this change because some municipalities, and I'm going to say this publicly, some municipalities were abusing the bonus density, I can't even say it, provisions. And so, of course, the broad brush comes down on everybody. We have yet to have used bonus density in this township. Cash in lieu of parkland we certainly have used, and development charges we have used, but bonus density we have not had the privilege of using. But some municipalities, none named, some municipalities probably cause this sort of heavy-handed approach. So the next report actually on the agenda talks about cash in lieu, and it's really kind of a temporary report, because it's clear that in order to deal with the urban growth stuff and the agreement that we're entering with the landowners for growth, that we'll have to work towards putting together a community benefits calculation and an actual charge. That'll be what helps us calculate and collect money to offset the developer's costs of front-ending the urban boundary studies. And once we do that, once we calculate a community benefit, then the cash in lieu of parkland provision disappears. We can't have both. So the next report deals with cash in lieu of parkland until we get that community benefit piece.
Okay, so are there any further questions on that, the previous one, looking at the Community Benefits Authority? No? Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder for that. So all those in favor of accepting that recommendation? And I see none opposed. Thank you. So that carries. So, Mr. Treble, I'm going to read the next one anyway, and if you want to give further explanation, that would be great. So the next item F is item P93-19. Planner 1 Alexa Cooper and Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble. Report number PD-096-19, which is a recommendation report. It's a repealing and replacing Appendix D to Bylaw 2011-28 for cash in lieu parkland dedication. So the recommendation is, and again, I'm going to read it. hopefully correctly, that the report PD-096-19 regarding repealing and replacing Appendix D to Bylaw 2011-28 for cash in lieu of parkland dedication, dated September 9, 2019, be received, and 2, the council hereby amend Bylaw 2011-28 as amended by replacing Schedule D for cash in lieu of parkland dedication with the attached revised Schedule D, and that Bylaw 2015-110 be repealed. So I need a mover for that, please. Councillor Jonker, and a seconder, Mayor Bilsma. Are there any questions or comments about this item? Mayor Bilsma.
I'm going to take a stab at this again. Now, I will be very muted in this because precisely what the Director of Planning said, that this is a temporary thing, because I've been on council for 4.5 years, and I've never really understood the full implications of what this cash in lieu of parkland program kind of works. I get the general principle. You know, developers develop a site, they don't want to expend any land for a park, or sacrificing land for a park, so they give the township a sum of money and we can use it elsewhere, so that not every survey necessarily needs a park, but eventually we need a park. But in 4 years, I'm assuming we've collected a fair bit of either monies. I understand that there's some building lots that are part of that inventory. I don't necessarily need to know a sum of money, although tonight, but I'd like to know, like, what's in that fund or what's in that file, because I think that there's some building lots. If I stand, I'll stand corrected if that's need be, but I have a couple questions about that fund then. So I'll just add, you know, I'll just kind of go out there and then you can kind of pick away. Just so we have a fund, or we have some kind of assets in that cash in lieu of parkland. How is that money spent? Is it towards land? Is it towards an existing park? Is it towards amenities in that park? Is it, or is it on a natural heritage? Can we use it for paths? So are there stipulations to how that money is spent?
Mr. Tribble.
Through you, Madam Chair. The fund grows with each severance and each subdivision that doesn't share land. You are correct, Mr. Mayor. I don't know the exact cash value in there off the top, but it's not as big as you think. Like, I have in my mind it's in the range of 80,000, but I could be dead wrong on that. Our treasurer will be the expert. I believe the treasurer gives a report at some point annually. I think that is a requirement. And certainly at the time of budget, one of the lines in some of the budgeting will be expenditure taken from cash in lieu account. So I know, for example, in the Streamside subdivision, the playground equipment that is in that subdivision was put in towards the end of last year through Bob in recreation, and that plus the park benches were taken from that account. It often goes towards equipment, I believe. That's one specific example I can tell you that came out of that. And that money is to be, based on the Planning Act, that money is to be spent towards recreation type activities. I think you could even probably stretch it to argue that a lawnmower to cut the recreation parkland would be appropriate from that account, but it's got to be related to parkland use in some respect, and that would all come and be approved through this council ultimately in one way, shape, or form before it was actually done.
So then, just to continue then, I understand that we have received building lots. Is that true? That we've received building lots in lieu of parkland? Sometimes that's how they pay that sum. So we have some.
Through you, Madam Chair, I'm not aware of that. We do have a couple of parkettes that our former CAO was of the opinion we didn't need, and so he was planning on bringing a report at one point to talk about converting them into residential building lots and selling them, but that never happened. So to the best of my knowledge, we certainly don't have lots in that account that are, it's a cash payment.
And that's fair. Like I said, we've never really had a fulsome discussion, and maybe it's, you know, the 11th hour on this particular fund, and it's better to spend some of this. But just for the, my own head, I guess, I know we have our new West Lincoln Community Center, and it's fabulous and wonderful, but I'm concerned that we put all of our eggs in, say, one basket, and I'd like to see little. I like this idea. I want to make sure that there's little parks that families can access more regularly than to have large parts with or chunks of money where we're kind of making them big. So I have no objection to having a building lot sized park with a little bit of playground equipment, so that a mom with a couple of kids in tow can access it fairly quickly. I like the one that's in Alma Acres, right dead center. People within 1 or 2 minutes, almost everybody in the entire survey can access that one. I think that's very ideal. Rock Street's very ideal. When we look to, you know, just as a matter of discussion, when we look to do some of the secondary plans on various components that are being developed in our municipality, I want to make sure that we kind of have an idea where the little mini parks are, and whether there's, you know, a handful of those type of playground equipment that people can access, rather than to kind of build up a fund and then put something out in the Leisureplex. I like the Leisureplex, and you know, and it's one of our playgrounds. So I just kind of, in terms of a discussion, I didn't really want to open that all up, but I'm trying to get my head around this parkette and cash in lieu of parkland. So.
Okay, for the most part, I would think that we would prefer to have a park, you know,
Yeah.
a parkette in each of the areas, but that isn't always possible depending on the lot.
Correct.
So, Mr. Tribble probably could speak more to that, but there are several of those small things. My concern is that some of them are almost too small. So,
Almost, yeah.
Mr. Tribble.
Just a couple of comments. Historically, the parkland that was given to a municipality was often the land that wasn't usable to the builder for some reason. And so a few years ago, we put in place a Parks and Rec master plan that sort of forethought through what we should require and where we should require it. And then we actually put linkages between them and whatnot, which is a long-range plan that's going to take a number of years to actually build out, since the money just doesn't seem to cover the cost of building trails and whatnot. So going forward, hopefully we have, if we do it right, sort of the right amount of land in the right location that suits our needs, which I think is kind of consistent with what the mayor is suggesting. And historically, it wasn't always that way. We sort of got the remnant piece that just didn't seem to fit into the builder's plans. So, and the money can certainly be spent, and any expenditures that occur out of that cash in lieu account are approved by council before the expenditure occurs through budgeting or whatever. So I would assume, Madam CAO, we'll have a quick discussion with the treasurer about the actual value in the account and whatnot, and we can certainly report back on that at some point. But
I will comment that I've been trying to search for the reserve report while I've been sitting here, and I've struck no luck. So I will make sure I report back.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, the recommendation a while ago was that we just to refresh you, that the second part was to accept that report, and that the schedules be replaced with the new schedules. So we have a mover and we have a seconder, so I'm going to call. All those in favor? Are there any opposed? Good, that motion carries. So item G is P94-19, Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble. Again, very busy planning department. Rebuilding report number PD-035-19, recommendation report, amendment to the municipal building bylaw, bylaw 2017-15. So the recommendation is that report PD-035-19 regarding amendment to municipal building bylaw, bylaw 2017-15, dated September 9th, 2019, be received, and that 2, the proposed amendments to the building bylaw, bylaw 2017-15, as shown on the attachment number 1 to this report, be endorsed, and that an amending bylaw be presented at the September 23rd, 2019 council meeting. Okay, I need a mover, please. Councillor Cody, and a seconder. Mayor Bilsma. Okay, any questions or comments? Mr. Treble.
If I may, Madam Chair, I'll be brief, but
No, please.
the building bylaw process to change the building bylaw requires that we hold a public meeting. And you might recall that that public meeting was held back in February. It was quite some time ago. There was a question about one of the provisions that was already in the building bylaw that Township Legal Counsel wanted to explore. And as of last week, we've sort of agreed to park the provision around what to do with delinquent building permits. So everything else that was in the original public meeting bylaw from February around streamlining the building permit process and only requiring one set of plans instead of multiple sets now that we've got electronic permitting process and whatnot. All of that kind of stuff is in here and can get resolved. The piece that we're parking for the time being is what to do with permits that are sitting sort of dormant for years upon end, and the money's sitting there, but the developer or builder or owner or whoever it is isn't proceeding with the finishing of the building or the lot grading or whatever. That part we've parked for some further legal research, but everything else that was in the bylaw as presented back in February is before you and is appropriate for approval. So that's kind of an update since we had our public meeting.
Okay, so after that update, is there anyone who wishes to ask Mr. Treble anything else, or everybody's clear on that the rest of it stayed the same pretty much? Okay, so all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that motion also carries. Okay. H is item P95-19, Planner 2 Garrett Borma and Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble. Report number PD-140-19, a recommendation report, application to remove part lot control from blocks 34, 35, 37, and 45 of Plan 30M-446, Old Town Gateway Estates Plan of Subdivision, and request to rescind Bylaw 2019-40. So the recommendation is 1, that report PD-140-19 regarding recommendation report application to remove part lot control from blocks 34, 35, 37, and 45 of Plan 30M-446, Old Town Gateway Estates Plan of Subdivision, dated September 9th, 2019, be received. And 2, that Bylaw 2019-40 be repealed. And 3, that a bylaw be passed to lift part lot control on lands described as Block 34, 35, 37, and 45 of Plan 30M-446 in accordance with the attached reference plans. And 4, that a bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign an amending subdivision agreement with Mars Homes, Inc. and their mortgagees to permit part lot control on the subject blocks. And 5, that staff be authorized to have the agreement and bylaw registered at the Land Registry Office. So I need a mover for this, please. Councillor Riley. And a seconder, Mayor Bilsma. Are there any questions or comments? Mayor Bilsma.
Just a quick one. Is this going to happen like on an ongoing basis? Like the way I understand it, it's kind of to get sales in October, and is this like every month are we going to get kind of this amending bylaw as they divvy up the parcel of land, or is this like a one-time deal and these were just little anomalies, or I think there's like 80 lots or something in there and they're going to do these 5 at a time? I'm just curious.
Would either of you like to take a stab at that? Mr. Borma, you look like you're ready.
Yeah, I'll try my best, and then I can pass it off to Brian, and he can fill in the blanks. Yeah, so this particular application is just for 4 blocks to create several building blocks. They have actually requested and paid for more, but at this time they don't want to proceed on those because they're not sure of the exact building footprints that are going to be in place, so it's premature for them to apply for all those other blocks. But yes, as they go through and get closer to closings, they will be requesting more of these coming forward. And maybe Brian can explain a little bit more of the role of the amending agreement every time, but this amending agreement is only written for these 4 particular blocks. And I know possibly next month, we're going to have another application for the Rosemont Homes, Block 47 at the very north end for the same thing for that whole block, so it will come back.
Okay, yeah, no, I just,
Mr. Treble, do you want to,
just-
by way of explanation, sort of explain it the way you did it pre-agenda for Councillor Riley and myself?
Just the essence of the part law control is somewhat unique. We haven't dealt with it at planning committee since John George Akakis built some semis several years ago now. So there's 2 different ways that lot fabric have been created in this township. In the Old Town case, they created big blocks, and I forget the exact number, but it's like close to a dozen blocks or whatever. So we're dealing with 4 of them tonight. Those blocks are where, you know, an 8 or 10 unit townhouse development is proposed. Then the surveyor comes along after they've poured the footing and foundation and surveys the common wall of between each of the units. And that survey then becomes the fabric for conveyance of the parcels to the individual homeowners that are buying the units. That's sort of the traditional way of creating these lots. After you've put the footing and foundation in, then you survey because you know where the common wall is. The other approach, and Phelps Homes was just here, but they've left. Phelps Homes, in their most recent development known as Stepping Stones, they actually created the individual lots right from the get-go. They created, what was it, 64 or 54 or whatever number of townhouse units there was in that development, and they created the individual lots right away. Well, the trick is, though, they have to be able to pour the footing on that line. They said with laser technology they can do it. Mars has taken a different approach and said, nah, we'll do the survey in the old-fashioned way and get her done. So that's the difference. It kind of makes sense when you think of it that way. You know, you kind of need the wall before you can really put the line in place to be sure you got it right. And that's the essence of it. To sort of belts and suspender approach this thing, there's an agreement that Rod Bush, our lawyer, is recommending that we pass at the same time as the part law control bylaw. That part's new. We've never done that before, but that apparently is the way forward, is to register the plans have to be registered, the bylaw gets passed, then we get the agreement signed, and then they can actually do their conveyance and create deeds for each of the individual units and do the sales. So there's a bit of work to do before they can sell in October, but this is one of the key pieces.
so we will, just, it's the way the Mars does things, and we will see it regularly, but they're fairly routine and they're all.
Yeah, yeah.
So an answer, yes, they'll come back and they'll come back and they'll come back.
All right, then we know.
But now we know why. So that was, both of you, good explanations, and sort of, I think that it clarifies it for all the rest of us and for anybody who happens to watch this after the fact as well. A good, clear thing. So, good. Okay, so are there any questions or comments from anyone else? No? So all those in favor? Opposed? That motion carries barely. So, gentlemen, that's a couple of times. Yeah, not on the vote, but sidebar conversations. Okay, on to I. Item P96-19, Planner 2, Madison Etzel, and Director of Planning and Building, Brian Treble. Re-report number PD-148-19. Recommendation report, proposed street name for Block 47 of 30M-446 of the Old Town Gateway Estates Plan of Condo, Rosemont Homes. Condo file number 2000-072-08. The recommendation is that report PD-148-19 regarding proposed street name for Block 47 of 30M446 of the Old Town Gateway Estates Plan of Condo, file number 2000-072-08, dated September 9th, 2019, be received. And 2, that the street within Block 47 of 30M-446 of the Old Town Gateway Estates Plan of Condo in the Township of West Lincoln, Regional Municipality of Niagara, be named Jayla Lane by bylaw to be presented to council for approval following registration of the plan of condo. So again, we need a mover, Councillor Riley, and a seconder, Councillor Trombetta. Any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? And opposed? Okay, and that motion carries. Okay. Moving to other business, item P97-19, Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, resend Gibson appeal to the LPAT. This is a verbal update, but I'll point out that this is also the item on which Councillor Trombetta declared a conflict. So unless there's any questions or discussion, I think it's fine for him to sit through, but yeah. Okay, so Mr. Treble, please.
So, Madam Chair, I don't intend to say a whole lot more than to confirm that the appeal has been received. The last day for appeal was last Tuesday, and the appeal came in on that same day. It's my understanding that that's also the same day that the province introduced the new regulations of Bill 108, which changes the LPAT process. So this appeal will be under the new LPAT rules, which are the old OMB rules.
And I noticed in the public meeting that we use sometimes OMB and sometimes LPAT, and I thought eventually we'll get that straight and we'll know what to call that, right? But in the meantime, we're using both terms for now.
Yeah. So the only other thing I can add is that Sarah Premi is aware of the fact that the appeal has been received. She will be given a package when it goes off to LPAT, and then she advised that she will be in touch with council at that point.
Okay, thank you. Anything further for Mr. Treble on that? I think it's pretty clear. Okay, so item P98-19 is members of committee, other business matters of information nature. So I'm going to start, Councillor Cody, to see if you have anything you wish to speak. No? Okay. Councillor Jonker? Mayor Billsma?
Yes, I'd like to highlight the fact that this coming Friday, Silverdale Hall will be having their fall chili corn roast, and I'm a regular corn dipper, so although I think they put me on another task this time, I don't know, I think my dipping skills are fine, but maybe there were a complaint. But anyways, they put me wherever they'd like to put me. But it's always well attended. It looks like it's going to be a stellar Thursday, Friday this week. So come on out. And I guess if we make it to council, it might be old news, but we just completed the West Niagara Fair, and it was also a stellar weekend. And it was well attended. I don't know if we have numbers, but I certainly enjoyed my time there, and as did my family. And so I think congratulations are in order for the Agricultural Society for a job well done once again.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Riley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I guess as far as business goes, I as well with my family attended the West Niagara Fair, and I concede there with the mayor in sense of how the event was a success. We had great weather, and at the same time, I think the attendance was really great. And overall, it was just a great weekend in general. So I had a chance to enjoy that with family. We tried to put on social media a little family selfie. I noticed as my kids get bigger, it definitely becomes a little bit more.
You're not fitting the same way in?
It's a little bit, the composition of the shot definitely gets more and more crowded. So I'm still waiting for the mayor to do a family selfie. I know he has about 9 or 15 kids there. So, but other than that, I think it was spoken at or I guess alluded to at the August 12th council meeting that I was unable to attend, but we were at AMO at the end of the month there, and that was pretty successful, I believe. Really good information we were able to sink into all around. I won't go into too much of it just right now. I feel like some of that stuff will come out at the end of the month, but I did want to make note that that was, I don't know, that was a pretty eye-opening experience for myself, being my first AMO to go to, and engaging with the ministers there was, I thought, pretty, I don't know, very unique, and very curious to see what the future is going to hold there. So that's all I got for now. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Trombetta? Nothing? You want a second shot? You may have it. Councillor Jumper.
Yeah, just figured I'd like to say I would like to forget the memories I had at the Lincoln, at the fair. Actually, no, I had a good time. Definitely enjoyed the Farmer Daughters show. She put on a great show, especially Saturday at 4:45, I think her time was. That was the best one she had, definitely. She picked on me, so it was an enjoyable time.
Okay, good.
She tried to get me in trouble with my wife, but
Oh, dear.
we're still happily married.
You're
so,
good? Okay.
Yeah.
And Madam CAO, did you wish to speak?
Thank you very much. I don't normally do this, but there's a couple things I wanted to make sure that council was aware of, and staff. And I was contacted today by the Violet McDonald, who's the assistant manager of our local Tim Hortons, and from September 16th to the 22nd, they're going to be taking all donations for the Smile cookies that they do, and all the proceeds will go to the West Lincoln Memorial Hospital in terms of fundraising, and they have a very high goal of $10,000. And what they do need are some volunteers to come to the facility and do 2-hour shifts decorating cookies. So when else do you get a chance to decorate cookies for a really good cause? So there is to staff, we have the contact number, and anybody in the public who wishes to do so, they can contact the office, and we'll make sure we'll pass along that information. And then the other one is a reminder about the special council meeting on Wednesday, like 2 days from now. And that's starting at 6 p.m. And that's actually orientation number 6. So this is something we've been trying to do for a while. We're going to be talking about insurance, which is a really important matter for the township. And our representative from Pearson Dunn will be coming to make a presentation about that. We're also going to be having our integrity commissioner coming and talking about conflict of interest and the roles of the integrity commissioner and so forth. And then we have there's a matter related to negotiations with our local QP, and that'll be happening right at the end of the meeting. So again, all this starts at 6 p.m. and just reminding everybody to make sure they attend. Thanks. And they'll, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Well, the downside to being last is that I was going to talk about Silverdale. I was going to talk about the Smile Cookies. I think that's a great thing. And of course, the fair was amazing. And my involvement with the fair was the spelling bee. I got to run the spelling bee this year, and 4 schools were entered, and 20 children. Was well done. They were great spellers. I felt badly as a former teacher having to find the words to trick them. That sort of went against the grain of having taught for a long, long time. However, it was good. And then the second thing when you're talking about attendance is that John and I were part of the 12-person team trying to get people through the gate yesterday between noon and 4:20. And invariably, we were out to the road each time. I mean, there were thousands of people who came yesterday to the fair. So, again, it takes many, many, many volunteers to pull that together, and they work a good chunk of the year to do so. So, congratulations to all of them. And thanks to the powers that be and those above for giving them some good weather for for a change. They've had a lot of rainouts in the last few years since they've changed that over. So, I know the fair board, and we're very, very pleased with the weather and the turnout. And it took a lot of people, but it went very well. So, okay. So, are there any other items of new business that need to be brought up tonight? Okay. So we do then have confidential matters, and so we will shortly be moving in. Item P99-19 is Director of Planning and Building Brian Treble, a legal matter, urban boundary expansion study, hiring of consultants. The applicable closed session exemptions, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local board, the security of the property of the municipality or local board, and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including including communications necessary for that purpose. So it will be a verbal update, but I do need a motion to move us into closed session. So Councillor Jonker and Mayor Bilsma, all those in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so thank you to those who are left in our audience. And we will be moving shortly into closed session. So while we get that turned off, we'll just take a quick break.